and welcome back. Now, I realize for some of you viewers, this 4020 project, it's been dragging on for quite a while now, and I'd like to tell you, I feel the same way. Now, this is going on part 9 of this series, but I think we're making some headline here. I got rid of the other oil pan that wasn't going to work, and I've said in videos in the past that all I really needed was a tractor oil pan to make it work. I was wrong, but that's okay. I mean, you know, a guy can be wrong. I'm not a professional here. I'm just a farmer guy kind of building a tractor from junk. That's fine. A lot of guys are probably in the same boat. But anyway, I got rid of that stupid oil pan that wasn't going to work. And I want to show you guys what you really got to pay attention to when you go do something like this. And first thing you should do is what you're using. It's going to matter. So in my case, I'm using a late model 7700 combine engine turbo. So it's basically the same thing as like a 4430 engine, almost like identical. So what a guy has to do is, get you under here, is this sump right here. This thing here, it goes to the oil sump. So what you got to do to that is, I don't know if I get the camera at a good enough angle to show you. You got to get under here with the tape measure is what I'm trying to say. And in my case, I don't know if you can get in there and see that, but from the back of the block to the front of that, I got about 19.5 inches. So that means the oil pan that I had before wasn't going to work because it only came up to about 14.5 inches. Very low oil capacity oil pan. So it probably wouldn't have been very good to begin with. So what I did is I went back to the junkyard and I found this. So, okay, so this is an oil pan out of a 4755, which is a 466 block. But if you throw the gasket on top of it, the bolt pattern for the block is the same. Although there's one minor difference, and that's in the rear of the oil pan that mates up with the transmission. Let me get with here. So what I did is I made this template out of cardboard, and I just hammered it to the back or to the front of the transmission to you know, get the exact imprint or whatever. So I made this, and then I stuck it on the back of the oil pan here. And if you notice right here, this hole sticks out in space. And these top holes right here, and then there's also another one right here. I drilled those out. Those weren't there because I'll get you in here a little bit better. Because as you can see, the hole here, you know, it's way lower. So I drilled this out on the drill press. This thing weighs like 250 pounds, super heavy. So basically, what it boils down to, sorry, the camera's all over the place, guys. So what it boils down to is I get 5 out of the 6 holes. So anyway, these 3, they would just naturally line up. Now, like I said, this one's kind of off into space, and I wouldn't be able to make a hole for that because it kind of goes into the oil pan. Now, these 2 top holes, they were really easy just to drill out. I probably didn't even have to lug it over to the drill press and ratchet strap it to the side of the table to make it work, but that's what I did. But anyway, I think 5 out of the 6 is going to be plenty strong enough. I mean, if you look at this beefy sucker, it's thick. It's probably just as thick, if not thicker than the block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing on here. I might have to get the old man to come help me, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a floor jack underneath of it and then a ratchet strap underneath of it to kind of help me hold it up there. I'm not going to try to film any of that because it's probably going to take me like an hour to get the thing up there. And that would be a really shitty, boring video probably. I mean, yeah. Okay, so I'll be right back as soon as I get up there, or get the oil pan up there. All right. Okay, so basically what we got here is the world's largest 40-20 oil pan with an oil capacity of 22 quarts. Well, because that's what a 4755 has. But anyway, I got pretty much all the bolts in. This requires a little bit longer bolts in some spots because it's such a thicker oil pan. But now up in here, here's the top hole. Here's the hole that I couldn't utilize. And I said 5, I meant 4, because that 4th one, I guess, don't line up. This don't line up. This one here is the one that I thought lined up, but it don't. But I got the bottom 2, they bolt up, and then the holes that I drilled up here in the top on either side, those line up. So I got 4 bolts bolting the transmission to the oil pan, which isn't the end of the world, I don't think. But this oil pan, it's huge. Like I said, 22 quarts. So now what I got to do is put 22 quarts of oil in it. And I got to crank it over and see if we can build oil pressure back up. Because remember last video I was talking about that. I lost oil pressure. And I know I showed it already, but this is what's in the bottom of the oil pan. It's really thick, and yeah, that's gross. And I mean, it's super thick, and I'm pretty sure that's sucked up in the oil filter and clogged it. I'm pretty sure. God, I hope so. Only one way to find out, I guess. Okay, well, I guess I'll put some oil in it and see if it turns over and cranks up some oil pressure. Well, I got it topped off with my 22 quarts of oil. My 4430 dipstick over there, it's right on. I mean, it's like right where it's supposed to be, so that's good. And so I pulled back the fuel shut off, and I cranked and I cranked and I cranked and I cranked some more, and I was starting to get nervous because the top end, it's starting to sound clangy because it ain't getting no oil up there yet. And so I took off this cover right here that goes to the tachometer, and in behind there's a gear that comes up, and that gear goes straight down to the oil pump, and then there's another gear behind that that's on the camshaft, and that's what drives the oil pump and then drives the gear for the tachometer. That's all spinning. Okay, so nothing's broken. And then I left the cover off and I cranked on it a little bit longer, and then oil started coming up out of there, which means I am getting some oil pressure starting to build up. The oil filter, it was filled before we put it on there, but it probably all drained back out. So I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my battery on boil overnight, and so I can crank on it some more tomorrow. And then while I'm waiting to do that, I might as well put the fuel tank on it, I imagine. Do that, get the fuel system all hooked up and everything, and we'll take it from there. So, be back in a flash. Okay, so it's the next day. I got the fuel tank put in, and I made a new copper line that goes to it, and I just hooked up the return line to this. I don't even know what they had going on there. There's definitely something to screw into. So I put my return line here in the top. My understanding is a gas 40-20 tank and a diesel 40-20 tank are the same no matter what. So I made that work, and I checked the oil after cranking on it this morning, and it was full yesterday. Now it's got a little bit of blackness to it, and it looks like I've sucked down some of the oil, like a quart or two. So that should mean that I'm just about like primed back up, I guess. So I also put new fuel filters in it, and obviously I put a new oil filter in it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of crank on it, probably give it a shot of ether. I got the system all primed up. You can hear it going back through the tank. So fuel system's primed up. My battery is really starting to struggle, but it is just a garden tractor battery. It's kind of like a small car battery, really. It's not adequate. I need to get a new one. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it a snort of ether to help my battery out a little bit, and we'll kind of crank on it and let it run for a few seconds and see if our oil pressure comes back. Really hoping it does. Okay, just for hoping. So immediately it went up to about 40 pounds. That just made me feel a whole lot better. Okay, so there was really no reason to panic then, I guess. I lost oil pressure because of that nasty sludge in there, and then I had that oil filter from like 1985. The oil was probably pretty old too, because I was told that where this came from. The guy only farmed like 100 acres, but he didn't really take the best care of stuff. Maintenance is one of those 4-letter words. So it had me kind of nervous, but I mean, it's a low hour engine. So I think before I completely put it back together, I'm going to adjust the valves. I think you're supposed to adjust them in like every 1,000 hours. So I'm definitely going to check the valve lash out and keep moving forward from there, because I still got to build the intake pieces yet and put the air filter on yet. Otherwise, since I've got the fuel tank in, it's really close. So what we'll have to do after I do the valve lash and intake tubes is I'm going to have the exhaust manifold decked. Yeah, I'm going to have that decked so I can tilt the turbo forward. I've talked about this before. I might have to trim a little bit off of this piece here for the boost tube that goes into the intake. Might have to trim a little bit of that off, but that's necessary if I want a hood that I don't have to cut up. Is pretty much the standard protocol for that. So I'm happy. This is looking good. Now, next week, I have some other things I have to do, but I won't ramble about that too much. I think today I'm going to just call this video good and upload it, because I got some people that are wanting to do this project here, or want, you know, something similar anyway, and they're waiting. I left them hanging last week. Some of you guys were so pissed off about last week's video, you even unsubscribed. I've never seen a video in the analytics screen say negative subscribers. Ouch. I'm not even monetized. I'm not getting paid for these videos, so I mean, it's no big deal. I'd like to someday. Gotta keep hitting that subscribe button. But anyway, all right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.